Hello, I'm Kim Rooster Rosser, and on the 7th execution of the Louisiana Marathon in downtown Baton Rouge, this is Spotlight Saturday, episode 200! Marathon weekend.
It's here.
I know, it's here. So in last week's episode of Spotlight Saturday, it ended with you and Jonna. You don't know this yet.
Oh, the hat on and the pom-pom.
You and Jonna reflected on all the years, and y'all had a conversation. And seeing the two of you converse and have that motherly, sisterly conversation, you just feel just how happy you all were together. We're trying to move forward with our Spotlight Saturdays, and we thought that episode 200 would be a super time to just keep it real,
I think that's great. I kind of like it. 200, 2020.
I like it, yeah.
I like it. I like the 2s and the 0s. I don't know, I like it.
It's cool. So keeping it real includes so many things. And you and I have had a conversation or two, and there's so much stuff that goes behind the scenes well before the smiles crossing the finish line.
Yeah.
Where do you even start?
I don't know. There's a lot of tears. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of cussing and just struggle before you ever get to the smile.
Yeah. You put in the feedback that inclusion is something that we celebrate and that we highlight in the Ainsley's Angels mission. But talking about what it feels like to be excluded, talking about those times early in Carly's life where people were looking at you at the restaurant, or she was having a breakdown, or a family event that you had to leave early, and how that impacts you and Carly.
Right.
Those conversations.
And a lot of that really early kind of painful stuff made Ainsley's Angel stuff so special, because it was a time where we knew every single time we were going to get the smile. But there is this journey where the road is sometimes really dark.
Yeah.
To even get to that. And I thought that, if there was one thing that we were going to change, I think that was one of the questions.
Yeah.
Maybe it should be not highlighting everything that's just so wonderful and so celebratory.
Yeah.
Because I think we really miss an opportunity to educate runners, educate the general public on, and I hate the word struggle. I don't like it, but it is. The struggle to get to even the event, the race.
You've heard Lori refer to Ainsley's life as a marathon.
Right.
I mean, that's a struggle, Runners can understand what that means.
And I'm not a runner.
Sure. But the marathon that you've lived for Carly's, how many years now?
17.
17 years.
Yeah.
Every day has included some form of struggle.
Absolutely.
Now, that doesn't mean that, you're special because you have a daughter who has created some challenges and some struggles for your life. Everybody has that.
Right. I didn't stand up in line and sign up for this.
Right, exactly.
I didn't. There wasn't a line that said, hey, you want the easy way or the hard way? And I got in the hard way line.
And
I didn't do that.
Was there a user's manual that
Absolutely
said, okay,
not.
when you go to the family function and Carly is not having it,
right?
What do you do? Do you apologize for her actions?
Right.
What do you say?
That's the natural thing to want to do.
Yeah.
But when you sit down and you think about, when you get to that point where you realize that your kid is made the way your kid is supposed to be made, and I've gotten to that point. I was lucky enough to be able to have that realization early on in Carly's life. You don't apologize, but people that don't walk your walk don't understand why you're not apologizing. They don't understand why you don't keep her under control. They don't understand why you don't think about everybody else in the room.
Yeah.
And, when it's your family, that's a hard thing. That's a really hard thing to deal with, because you automatically think naturally your family's just going to fall in line, and they have their own stuff to go through to get to acceptance and understanding and stuff. And unfortunately, all of my energy is spent on Carly, that I don't have a whole lot of time for the people that just need to fall in line.
Yeah, exactly, right?
You just need to understand.
Yeah,
like, I don't need to teach you.
So you know what I'm hearing?
Right.
Inclusion is not apologetic.
It's not.
That's what I'm getting here.
Sometimes we do our individuals that we love that have disabilities and injustice when we only highlight the good stuff.
Okay.
Because people that have no reference, no connection, just kind of take away that feel good, write a check, walk on. And if we're really going to have change and have people fully understand where they naturally make accommodations, modifications, and give access to include, we have to highlight some of the stuff that isn't so pretty. And, you know, I'm not a very vulnerable person. I have very big, high, thick walls. Sitting here talking about it as a vulnerable place for me, which I would assume is much like a lot of mamas and daddies. Because it's a defense mechanism. It's a protection system. But those are things that we need to talk about. It's things we need to highlight, if not only for other families to know they're not alone. Because I think sometimes we just see so many smiles that it may really put families like ours in a position where they even further build the wall because we don't want people to know how hard it is.
Interesting.
I'm going to try and do this whole like vulnerable truth-telling stuff that I'm absolutely not great at. I kind of hate to do it because I don't want for Carly's amazing runner this year to like feel any type of about it, because it's part of this journey. It's part of a learning experience, and Carly loves books. You'll always see her with a book in her hand. And that morning she woke up, she was in her tiger pajamas. She woke up saying, "Rah!" She was so excited. This is 4 a.m. You know, it makes everything so much better when she wakes up excited and happy. And we're doing the whole ritual of which book are you going to bring. And I, as a parent, failed to say to the runner, the book is important. Must have the book at all times. If the book falls out of the chair, gotta stop, gotta look for it, gotta end the race with the book. And I failed to do that because we got there, everything was just so chaotic. Tanya called out the 5-minute warning, and so Jen Crump jumps into action to save the day, and you know, it's just crazy, and it's just a lot, and I'm overwhelmed, and I'm having some anxiety that all the noise and stuff is going to make Carly start off the morning not happy, and that she's going to start everything off with the whining, and, you know, you just want it to all be real perfect. And I forgot to say about the book. I'd even bought this, like, cushion thing to put in there, so hopefully things didn't fall through the little cracks that are in her chair. And, you know, she crosses the finish line, and I can already hear her kind of yelling. I chased my sister down and was like, don't approach them. It's okay if we don't get pictures of, like, her getting her medal. When we show up, sometimes it makes it worse. And so I don't want it to be worse. I want her to be able to enjoy the Finish Festival. And so we go to the Welcome Center and we wait, and they roll up and she's smiling. You know, she's a little anxious. And she's holding her medal, and we take pictures, and we get some good pictures, and she starts the whining, and her runner says about mile 10, she started asking for her book, and we don't know where the book is. And it just hit me in the face. Like, I forgot to tell you about the book. I forgot to tell you what her language is when she dropped the book. And that it's really important to find the book. Like, somebody will pick it up. You know, somebody will do whatever, but you've got to wait for them to catch up with you. You know, like, Gotta find the book. I forgot. And Carly refused to even go into the welcome center. She wanted to go straight to the car. We go back to the hotel so I can feed her, thinking, okay, that'll make it better. We'll get another book from up in the room. She picks another book. She goes to sit down on the bed for me to put her shoes on her because we're going to go back towards the Finish Festival. She slips off of the bed because those shiny red pink pants are like really fabulous, but they're slick. And she slips off the corner of the bed and she whacks her head up against a desk that's right off the side of the bed. And I know when I turn her over, I'm going to have like tons of blood and all this stuff because there was a big crack and there wasn't. And she cried and we sat on the floor and I held her and, you know, like trying to keep myself together so I'm not crying more than she is. And she wants me to drive around the race course to look for her book. So we take the next several hours and drive the course, and she identifies where she dropped her book. She says here, and there it was, you know, like this right around mile 10, and we can't find the book, you know, and it's upsetting to her. It's upsetting to me. Like, I'm frustrated. Where's the book? I know somebody has picked it up. I know somebody's probably thrown it away because the runner's not going to run the rest of the race with the book. And, you know, we have to explain to her it's gone. Your book's gone. Well, you know, I do everything I can. I can't go to, I have to call her daddy. He's at work. He explains to her that he'll bring her to all kind of different bookstores and Goodwills and stuff. And maybe one day they'll find the book. And, you know, it's all about the book. And all about that I forgot to deliver the message. And, you know, sometimes all the preparation, sometimes all of the instruction, all of the perfect planning, it just doesn't work out because she drops the book, and I've forgotten to tell people what happens when she drops the book. It's small and might not resonate with anybody else, but the book is important. Me forgetting that one thing, creating this bigger thing, it does not take away from how magical this weekend was. It's a magical weekend. It's something that is on one of those we will not miss, we will always be at, because it is something Carly loves, and you just can't deny it. There's nothing that happens that can say, you know, maybe this is one we'll skip next year. You know, this is a must do. And being there with everybody and, you know, watching how Tara, whenever she's running to the car, is like, I'll go get the medals, I'll go get her stuff, like, you go look for the book. Everybody picks up, they notice things, and they pick up, and those were things that were learned over time to make sure you have everything and have that checklist and everything is checked off. You know, I didn't just forget a book, I forgot syringes for her meds. And Friday night, happened to see it, Michelle drawing up meds for Daniel, and was like, oh my God, do you have an extra syringe? Because guess what I forgot for the morning? A syringe for her meds. You know, but there always seems to be somebody there to pick up, to fill in those gaps whenever we forget something on that checklist. And that's a wonderful thing. And we have now this kind of community, this tribe that we can call on to be able to say, hey, I forgot this, do you have it? Hey, like, I've got to handle this with her, I don't know that I'll be able to get back to do this, can you handle it? And sometimes we don't even have to ask. Like, you know, we're so in tune with each other at this point that we notice it and we say, hey, I'm going to go get your medals. You know, that those things are really just priceless. And even when we're on this road and things are dark, you know, there's always pit stops, and there always seems to be one of our Ainsley's Angels family waiting there to help fill up that tire, help get us what we need, help step in for a moment so we can take a breather. You know, that those are really, really important things. But none of that comes without everything that we have with this family. And I just thought I would share about the book. Let you know, if you're ever riding with Carly, I'm just putting you on notice now, the book. Make sure she finishes with the book.
Sometimes that road's real lonely.
Yeah.
And the only lights you see are your headlights.
Which is just daunting to think about.
It is. It is a very scary thing. And I don't know that it'll ever go away completely.
Sure.
But if there's anything that we could do for our runners and our families is to put more headlights on the road.
Yeah. And that as we talked about earlier, that starts with really educating.
Absolutely.
So educating people how to turn on the lights or how to even get to the road. That is the road of inclusion. That is not always smiles and happiness.
Right.
That inclusion can be difficult,
right.
and it can be a challenge, and it can be a struggle.
Right. You know, I was telling you earlier about when Carly was small.
Okay.
I went to work for a local nonprofit, Families Helping Families of Southwest Louisiana. I was an education advocate, helping families navigate their school system stuff, going to IEPs, behavior plans, all that kind of stuff. And we had a quarterly newsletter, and so I had to write an article for every newsletter. And the article was Carly's journey to inclusion. That was it. And I would write little snippets of things that were going on in her life. And it was those were the only times that I allowed myself to be vulnerable. So families could see that, you know, even Christy, who's going in there with us, you know, slamming her hand on tables and saying, yes, you will, and this is the law, and demanding the rights for the individuals, has those dark days. You know, it's important because sometimes when they see people who are so strong, they're like, I can never be like that person.
Bingo.
And they need to know that even the Christy Cormiers who are that strong and bold and are fighting for people's rights on a daily basis in a professional capacity, that they have those moments where it is tough, it is hard, and sometimes it's not just moments, sometimes it's hours, sometimes it's days. It just depends. It depends on Carly.
So what I think is important though is that we try to capture some of this realism, some of these stories. So Carly's journey to inclusion, you know, fast forward the clock, you know, 15, 16 years, and now we have a chance with a platform like Spotlight Saturday to truly capture some of this and integrate it into our joyful celebration that we have.
Right.
Maybe we don't have Spotlight Saturday every week. Maybe we just have it once a month or once every 2 months. But in it is happiness and celebration, but it's also advocacy and education.
I think it's real important because even for the person who does it for a living, professional, my paycheck comes from it. You know, I even need to see what other families are going through.
Perspective is huge.
Right. And families that are my friends, like my family, my Ainsley's Angels family. I want to see what's going on with them because so many times when we get to the race, you know, and that's something that Jonna and I talked about 5 years ago when we met here at the Louisiana Marathon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we need time for families to be able to talk to each other because we're so busy tending to our individual when they come across that finish line that we don't ever really get to talk and to have those kind of conversations and to know what's going on, lend each other a hand, you know, have some support. So, you know, I think that this will be a great outlet.
Well, with your help, I would love for you to continue this dialogue with me. We have we're on a great level. Like, we connect. It's a beautiful thing.
We're our people. We went to high school.
Right. A lot of y'all don't know that.
We've known each other for a long time.
The stories we could tell.
We're not going to tell those.
That'd be a whole different. That'd be Spotlight Monday or Sunday. We'd have to get Reverend Jared in. But anyway, no.
Actually,
we just leave all that in the 90s. That's porch time.
That's porch time. We don't video porch time.
So with your help, though, what I'd love to do is capture some of this. Like, you know, Kendra and Gage spent the week at your house.
They did. It was the best week ever.
You want to talk about strangers yesterday, friends today, and family tomorrow. I mean, come on.
It was amazing. It was, and I think the thing that was really amazing was watching Gage and Carly
You know, me and Kendra, we got it.
Yeah.
We were soul sisters from the moment we met. It was Carly engaged, man.
Carly's a
that was
bet.
something they knew. You know, they understand each other on a level that none of us can understand. They communicate with each other. We don't speak that language. And being able to watch that was just amazing. And that was before she went to school. Because the day before, backstory, the day before she wanted to go in and talk to him in the morning, I wouldn't let her go in. I was like, he's asleep. Like, I don't hear him. Can't wake him up. And she was so upset, got on the bus, was not happy. And Kendra was like, no, you let her come in. I was like, okay. So she went in, and he was under his blanket, and they just sweet. Like, she really worried about him. Today, yesterday when she got off the bus, they were home. She wanted to know where he was, and I was like, he's going to Baton Rouge, and she said, oh, I'm coming. So she was ready to go find Gage. You know, so like, just those friendships, because... And that does something good for a parent's soul, is to watch their child have a friend.
Yes.
Have a friend, someone they care about.
Chris is gonna make me cry thinking about Ainsley used to have her friend come over and play dolls with her.
Yeah.
And for me and Lori to see them two interacting, oh man! She's not here to see Briley. She's not here to see Camden or Lori.
Right.
She's coming to see Ainsley, and they're gonna have a play date.
Yep.
And that kind of stuff. Like, look, Ainsley had one friend that did that. It was a beautiful thing. Emily runs with Ainsley's Angels. She was a pen pal. Now, Emily's typical. Ainsley's not typical. I don't even know the right words to use, but I'm trying to explain that Ainsley had INAD and Emily didn't. But Emily would write to Ainsley like she was writing to her typical friend in South Carolina, North Carolina. And it was because Emily knew no different than to treat. And so that always begs the question. We talk about education. Maybe it's what we are teaching that needs to be switched, because our human nature is to give and to love and to accept.
Absolutely. We learn hate. We're not born with hate. We're not born with a discriminatory spirit. We're not born seeing differences in our skin colors and our sexes and our anything. Like, we're born with this innate love for other human beings. We learn to modify that. That's a learned thing. And so I do think that because we're able to learn it, we're able to learn differently too, to get back to something that's natural, that's embedded in us, it's in our DNA.
There's so many things that we've had in the past 300 years in just America in general, where we've had to reverse the ideology or the mindset.
Right.
And by no means do we think that every human can be retaught, because there's still hate in the world, right? And people still teach hate. But we've seen some huge strides in all things inclusion, not just disability inclusion, but like across the board. So there's hope.
There's absolutely hope. You know, Crawley did what, Marine Corps Marathon in 2015, maybe?
Yeah, sounds right. I don't remember the exact year. Was it Ainsley's final race or 100? So that was 2015.
Yeah. When Crawley was starting first grade, I went to an OSEP conference in D.C., and I was there when she started school. I missed her first day of school.
Okay.
And that day I was feeling pretty crappy, because what kind of mama misses her kid's first day of school to go to a Office of Special Education Programs conference in D.C.? Who does that?
Right.
And I was just really feeling down. So I went to see memorials, like just to do something for myself, to get myself out of it. And I'm standing there at the Jefferson Memorial, and I'm reading these walls, because, you know, it has these huge marble walls that have stuff etched in them, different phrases that he said. And there was one that talked about not wearing the cloak that you wore as a child, and that societies should also grow, or you end up wearing the cloak you wore as a child.
Wow.
And I'm just kind of standing there, and there was a homeless man in a wheelchair that kind of rolled up, and I thought, okay, you know, there's a reason for everything. And I looked down, and ends up some of my friends come up, they're like, oh my God, you're at the Advocate wall. This is a wall within that place that is called the Advocate wall. It's the thing that advocates journey to to kind of be inspired. So at Marine Corps Marathon, I brought Carly that walk. And we read that because I think it's really, really important that we teach our kids that they're advocates just by how they live their lives. And that needs to happen. That needs to continue. That needs to always be the case, is that you don't apologize for yourself. You're fabulous the way you are. And you need to teach people that. And I think that is something that will resonate with lots of families. That, you know, there are times when we've got to get vulnerable. We have to get to that place that it's uncomfortable and we want to shut our mouths, but we can't, because we're building a life. We're working towards somewhere that is going to be worthy of our kids to live in when we die. You know, because for a lot of families that's the struggle.
Yeah.
Is that,
how is my child going to live without me?
yeah.
I'm not getting any younger.
Yeah. So, you know, what a lot of people don't know what I do for a living, but I work for the state's Protection and Advocacy Agency, and every state has one. It's federally mandated. It kind of came about after Geraldo Rivera went into Willowbrook.
Okay.
People like our kids were just dumped there, living on the floors in squalor, just treated awful.
Yeah.
So these agencies in every state are now mandated, and we go in and we make sure that that's not happening anymore. So I get to talk to adults who are living in an institutional setting. Most of them are wanting to go back out into the community, and I work with them on trying to figure that out. But I get to ask them all kind of cool stuff.
Yeah, wow.
And there's this one guy, and he's great. He's fabulous. And we're talking, and I asked him, I said, hey, you know, if your mom could have taught you one thing before she died, what would that one thing have been? And he asked me, why are you asking? I said, well, you know, because my kid, I just want to know, like, I want you to help me be a better mom.
Yeah.
And he thought for a minute, and he said, I wish she'd have taught me to live without her.
Wow.
Because when she died, my world was gone. And that was such an eye-opener for me, because I didn't realize that by loving my kid more than life itself and protecting her and creating this safe space for her, that I could ruin her life when I die. And so I think it's important that we are sharing with others what this struggle is, so they can acknowledge it, they can learn from it, they can maybe even recognize it, and know that we're struggling. You know, we're trying to keep our head above water, keep everything together, but more importantly, to help create somewhere where our kids can be safe when we're born.
I love that.
I think that's real important.
So that's what we need to do.
I mean,
So that's what
it's your deal, but that's my suggestion.
No, I love the suggestion. And I think we have a platform and an audience that's going to appreciate that. So I think that's we're going to have a piece of that in every one of the episodes as we move forward. So with your help to help me capture some stuff, with anybody out here who has some experiences or was triggered by what you're saying or made a connection to your story, like pull out the video.
I want to see people that I don't know. I want to connect with people that I might be in the same physical space, but I don't ever really get to connect with them.
Yeah.
And I might know people online, but I don't ever really get to connect with them. And you know, we're a family.
Yeah.
We've got to figure out a way to take that up a notch, because I think that's where we're at. It kind of feels like that.
Yeah. All we did, me and you, was we agreed to sit down.
Yep.
We took a phone, we put it up.
Took a phone.
It's leaning up against the
Hey.
fence, and we hit record. And at the top it says 23 minutes and 30 seconds of just a raw conversation where we drank beers and.
Well, my Crown and Coke has been gone. It's just
I'll just,
now.
I don't want to drink alone. But thank you for taking the time. I look forward to seeing where this takes us. And thank you for being vulnerable today.
Yep, it's not a good thing. It's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
It's not an easy thing.
No,
it's not easy.
That's not lost on me. So thank you for.
And that's it. That's all something we share. We get that. And I think that's another thing, is that there's going to be a whole lot of people watching those clips when you send them in that understand how hard that is.
Yeah.
And will appreciate it more than you'll ever imagine.
And maybe you can share those episodes with your own families.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it might be difficult for you to tell them how you feel, but maybe you can use this as a forum for you to communicate with your families. Or hey, watch this episode and listen to minutes 16 to 17 because that is exactly how I feel. And Lori did the Marine Corps Marathon video, and that was 190 something episodes of Spotlight Saturday, and we got her on there. And it was a conversation like this.
And that was a defining episode for me. That was the episode for me.
Did you connect it?
Right.
You were like, look, this is it. Right?
Yeah, like this is what was missing.
Yeah.
Was having a mama say those things, like, God, because I knew how hard it was, and it made you connect to it so great. I mean, you know, it didn't hurt that I've known Lori since, you know, whatever. But I mean, you know, like that's important. I don't think I'm the only mama that felt that way.
No, she was getting a lot of text messages as it was playing that night, and people still bring it up. So you haven't seen her since you've watched that.
I have not.
She's sitting back there. So we're gonna cut it. And we're gonna go mingle. But thank you again, Christy. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing what you guys.
Me too. I'm excited about it.
Good.
All right. Peace.
Oh, don't keep her hanging.
A young angel born with wings.
Talk about an athlete. That's pretty discussion. So Riley's going to record this like she always does. Tracy cut all the names from the comments of episodes 190 and 198, and they're all right here in this bag. And Stacia is going to pull the name out of the hat. You cannot look. It's not really a hat either. It's a hot pink bag. Are you good? Let me see what you got there. So this thing says that Douglas Nelson would like to nominate Abigail Kalaki from Glenmore, Pennsylvania for a Freedom Chair. And so it shall be. Watch me the same person. No, you can nominate multiple times. So Marty Longbottom. Her name is Evelyn Heath, the daughter of Carolyn Heath. Thank you again, and I'll see you in a few weeks. So it shall be.